Should Auburn fans be concerned about what could happen Saturday inside Jordan-Hare Stadium?
Listen, put me in the parking lot, with Bears, and I'll go out there and play. It don't matter.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Ferg Friday to all who celebrate, as we celebrate today with Justin Ferguson of the Auburn Observer. Zep Jasper joins us later in the show. Ferg, I'm looking at this matchup Saturday with Western Kentucky, and I don't feel too great about it from an Auburn point of view. I think there's a few aspects we can look at here. I think, one, Western Kentucky's a decent football team. Auburn's an okay football team. Depending on who you ask, that adjective may change to something not as good. And I'm a little worried about the emotional high from this past Saturday and some potential drop-off. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a Western Kentucky team that's pretty good. They're going to make a bowl game this year. They throw the heck out of the ball. They are number 4 in the country in plays run this season, and they're number 4 in the country in pass attempts per game. So you know what you're getting. I think it's kind of a more up-tempo version of what Mississippi State did to you a couple weeks ago. So having that familiarity is good. I think the fact that Auburn's pass defense has stepped it up over the last few weeks is good. The pass rush stepping up has been good. However, this is the kind of team, you have these kind of teams that throw it all over the yard for games like this to go into places like Jordan-Hare Stadium and pick off a team, because it is a great underdog tactic, because, it's not something that you're used to. Now, teams that have gotten the best of Western Kentucky this year have been able to limit them, keep them from taking the top off the defense. Yeah. So tackling it in space, which has been really good for Auburn these last couple of weeks, has got to be key. It's not a terrible matchup for Auburn because of the way they've played the last couple of weeks, but it is one of those teams, though, that I don't think you're ever going to be able to fully put away unless something crazy happens. You go back, they got blown out a few weeks ago to North Texas, and since then they have just been, the last 2 games, they've just been on fire on offense. So it's going to be a team that's going to be coming in with a lot of confidence, and they're going to come in here thinking that they can beat an Auburn team that, has a losing record right now, and, there's no reason for them not to think that.
Yeah, and this is going to be big for Western Kentucky, right? The fact that it's a money game, right? They're getting paid a lot to come here, and you get the opportunity, because this is an opportunity, a realistic opportunity for a group of 5 school to knock off an SEC team at home. That's a big deal, and so they've had this circled probably since it was scheduled, Ferg. So, I think there's a lot of factors in this that could be concerning from a game plan standpoint. I'm expecting a similar approach to what we saw against Mississippi State. Do you think that's a reasonable assumption?
Absolutely. And I think on offense, you're going to see Auburn run the ball a lot. This Western Kentucky team, I kind of feel like I say this every week, but teams that have committed to running the ball against these defenses have had success running the ball. UAB had no semblance of a passing game against them a few weeks ago, and it was able to make it a really tough game because of the way they ran it. UTSA ran it pretty well. Some other teams they played this season have been able to run it fairly effectively on Western Kentucky. They've got one huge nose tackle there who would be, big enough to play on anybody's team. Sure. But a little bit lighter, in that 3-3-5 defense that they run. You've been able to run the ball effectively these last few weeks against, again, teams I think in Ole Miss and Arkansas and Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Those are teams that are probably bottom half SEC teams in run defense, but you still took advantage of them. You weren't running this well at the beginning of the year against teams like San Jose State. So Auburn's running game is in a pretty good spot right now. They're, firing on all cylinders. It's still a little boomer bust. They still kind of get up space, but man, when they're able to break tackles and get in space, they're really dangerous. And that's going to work the clock. They dominated time of possession against Texas A&M. They're going to have to do that because what Western Kentucky is going to want to do is get as many possessions as possible and go as fast as possible. For Auburn, it's just, can you play complementary football, ball control, good defense, kind of play a similar game that you played to Mississippi State and definitely the Texas A&M game. That's your best bet of coming out here with a win and just seeing, hey, you got more athletes, you got more talent, especially in the trenches. See if that wins out. But Western Kentucky is going to be very well drilled in what they want to do. I think Auburn's starting to get well drilled in what they want to do under Cadillac Williams.
Yeah. So Auburn entered the Texas A&M game ranked 49th in ESPN's FPI. They win, but they drop 2 spots at 51. The new team at 49, Western Kentucky, which is a little funny here. ESPN FPI still predicts Auburn to win. I assume it's because it's at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and that gives them a few points. You probably know a lot more about that than I do, Ferg. But
yeah,
the line in Vegas at 4.5. Our friends at Bet Online have it at 4.5 right now, and I think it's fair. I think fair. I originally thought because it opened at like a touchdown, and it's slowly gotten smaller and smaller, which tells you that a lot of the money's coming in on Western Kentucky. But it's just this has a weird feeling about it, right? Because I think there's this. I've got to be really careful to say this because whenever you do this, it's like you're dissing certain figures, and I don't want to do that. But I do think there is some false confidence in how good this team is because of how special this past Saturday night was.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you go back to that game against Texas A&M, they couldn't finish drives. Like, the thing about Auburn that I think their defense has played pretty well in the second half of the season outside of that Arkansas game. That Arkansas game was just bad all the way around. But, the last 2 weeks, if you look at the last 2 weeks, I think Auburn has played a lot simpler on the defensive side. They've rotated more. The pass rush has gotten home. They've tackled a lot better. The coverage has been strong. I mean, like that's good, but we've seen flashes of that this season. The thing that I want to point out to people is like, yes, be excited, be happy that Cadillac Williams has brought energy and life to this team and they keep fighting and they have a chance. Be happy about that. But the energy and the life and the confidence that you get, like that doesn't fix Auburn's problems. Auburn cannot throw the ball consistently. Auburn cannot finish drives consistently. That has been a since game one issue for Auburn, right? So I think on the offensive side, they've been able to work some stuff in with their running game, but all that confidence doesn't solve all your problems. All that energy you get from Cali, it's great. It's the only reason it's the only way making this team interesting in the down stretch of the year, which is great for everybody involved. However, it doesn't fix your problems. This is still not a very good football team, but it's a not very good football team that's still fighting, and they're playing a team that does not have as much talent as them. And you see if you can limit mistakes. It's still a lot of turnovers, still a lot of problems finishing drives, still a lot of problems through the air. A team like that is going to have a hard time putting anybody away. And so that's what's going to make this game really interesting on Saturday.
There's no question about it. All right, a lot of head coach rumblings and rumors around the Plains. I want to get Justin's thoughts on that. And man, what would Lane Kiffin do to this program, among some other names? In just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. And it is my favorite way now to play daily fantasy sports. I'm not just saying that because they're a partner. I did try them for the first time because they're a partner of the show. But holy cow, Ferg's talked about it before. He loves playing on Underdog Fantasy. It's good for season-long best ball stuff, and they usually every few weeks you get the chance to dive into it again, which is a ton of fun for season-long things. But the daily aspect is such a blast. You can do daily drafts with thousands of people or just 2 or 3 people if you want to do more head-to-head and have a little bit more of a stacked team. It's a ton of fun. And also when it comes to college sports, they've got all kinds of pick'ems. They list a stat and you say, hey, it's either higher or it's lower. It's a ton of fun and you can make a lot of money. It's really, really worth it. So, and some folks have reached out, man, I wish it was okay to do this and legal to do this in Alabama. It is. It's not sports betting. It's not seen as sports betting, and so you can do this within the state of Alabama, in the state of Georgia, so be sure to check that out. Sign up today with promo code LOCKEDON, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. Justin Ferguson, our guest, as he is every Friday where our schedules can mesh together. Ferg, the Lane Kiffin steam, it's not going away.
No. Man, it's not going to until, there's some sort of announcement one way or another, whether it's Lane Kiffin's going to be Auburn's next head coach or Lane Kiffin's getting a whole lot of money from Ole Miss to stay at home. from the very beginning, Lane Kiffin was Auburn's number one target, and that's what it seemed like. Now, I will say this. With John Cohen in charge of this search and just the new power structure at Auburn, a lot less information's getting out. I'm not a guy who has a lot of scoops and a lot of inside sources. That's never been my game. But I think I think a lot of folks who are those kind of people are still having a hard time, and that's nothing against them. I think that's more of just what Auburn has done with this search process, and try to really keeping it in house and keeping it tight. That's something that Auburn needed to do. Honestly, I think if you think about the heist that USC and LSU pulled off in the last coaching cycle, those kind of came out of nowhere. And I think if Auburn ends up hiring Lane Kiffin, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone because that's just been the name that's been linked to Auburn for weeks and weeks now. But I think there's so much that Auburn could be swinging for the fences. That's the one thing I feel confident about in this whole thing is that with John Cohen as the hire, with all the talk about Lane Kiffin, I think the thing is that Auburn is the money that's been talked about being thrown around here. You gotta keep in mind, this is Auburn's first hire that they're making in the era of SEC, ESPN contract. Everybody's contract's exploding here soon. Right. And I'll also say this. Some Auburn fans may sit up and scoff at some of the numbers being thrown out here. Number one, it ain't your money. Number two, it ain't real money. And number three, everybody's got it at this point. So that's just gonna be the cost of doing
it blows
business.
me away. He's not worth $10 million. It's why do you care?
Also, the market's changed so much that I don't know who is worth at this point, right?
Well,
it's just only going up.
With the new TV deal, you look at what the Big Ten got, you got to think the SEC's is going to be bigger.
Yeah, the SEC is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be historic, right? I mean, in the Big Ten's was as well, and it's just SEC is going to be so much bigger. So I just think with that, and then the money also with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, all of these things are going to be bigger. I think in 5 to 6 years, I think most of the head coaches in the SEC are going to be making $10 million a year. I just think that's where it's headed.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely where it's headed. But I do think Auburn is going big game hunting here, and obviously Lane Kiffin is one of those guys because that would be poaching a sitting head coach from the SEC West that has been very successful at his current location, right? But I wouldn't rule if somebody else comes out and other names leak out, or at the end of the day it's wow, Auburn hired that guy. I'm not going to be surprised by it because I think that's just kind of be the tone. Sorry, they're going big game hunting. And I made the example during the game last week when LSU clinched the SEC West with with Ole Miss's loss to Alabama. LSU won a national title and gave a lot of money to Ed Orgeron. And then when it was very apparent that things were going very poorly under Ed Orgeron, they made the costly decision to get rid of him. And when their job opened up again, it wasn't, oh, do they go get this? Nothing against. I mean, Florida ended up getting Billy Napier, but it's it wasn't just, oh, let's go get somebody from in-state who's at a smaller program. Let's go get somebody from the Group of Five. They went out and got Notre Dame's head coach.
Yeah.
Right. So, and what did they do? Year one, transfer portal goes
won
nuts.
The best division in college football.
And people thought after week one that they were terrible. Right. So it's
right.
There's swing for the fences, Auburn. Swing for the fences. Anybody who has these job openings right now, because you've got the money, and I think LSU is a great example of a team like Auburn, kind of historically around the ballpark. LSU's got a bit of an edge, a little bit more national championships recently. Their recruiting territories, more rich than what Auburn's is. But even still, I mean, this is a program that you can find yourself as an equal to, but more often not. So why not follow their lead? And whether that's Lane Kiffin or that is somebody else that we're not talking about right now, that just seems to be the tone. When you go out and get John Cohen, a guy who has done this job in this division at this level, to be your AD, and you're racking all this money up, it just seems to me that you're going to try to do the same thing with your head coach, and you should. It's kind of like what they did with Bruce Pearl. Different situation, but it's kind of like what they did with Bruce Pearl a few years ago. And Auburn football needs their Bruce Pearl. Could that be Lane? Could that be somebody else? They got to get it, though. And I think this is the opportunity to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I think whether it's Lane Kiffin, I personally still think Dan Lanning may be the best fit as far as what you're looking for. I don't know how likely that is at this point, but we'll see. Dabo Swinney's name's being thrown around, which is wild to me. But
wild.
But you talk about swinging for the fences, like.
And I'll say this: Oklahoma really kicked the tires on Dabo during their last start, so it's worth a shot, man. Like it costs you nothing to ask.
He can't be happy in the ACC, right? But also, everybody has different motivations, right? I mean, he may be cool going 10-2, 11-1 in a terrible conference. Like he may love that. I don't know, but.
And also, it's he's such an Alabama guy through and through.
100%.
Could he be the Saban replacement? Whenever he's done. I know that would be a dream job for him.
I think he's just sending the message both to Clemson and out there that he'd leave.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's actually serious about the Auburn job. I think he just wants people to know that he's not married to Clemson long term. That's what I think is happening.
And look, like I said, I don't have any inside sources or anything like that, but just throwing names out there. But this is where you get names like Dave Aranda getting thrown in. That's where you get names like James Franklin getting thrown in. Just because it's you swing for look at what LSU just did. Nobody thought in their right mind that they would hire Brian Kelly, but Brian Kelly saw an opportunity to go to the SEC and do something and take that step, and he did it. USC went and got Lincoln Riley. Everybody in the world thought Lincoln Riley was set for life at Oklahoma. So
there has to be some concern for if you're not in a school that's currently in the Big Ten or the SEC, or a team that's slated to go to the Big Ten or the SEC, which is a little different than Oklahoma, I guess. But it's just why would you risk it? Because you just don't know what that's going to look like in 5 seasons.
That's where Lanning makes sense. That's where Swinney makes sense. And I'm the one who thinks there could be value here if the playoff expands here soon in being the team in the Pac-12 and being the team in the ACC. So Clemson and Oregon could be set. They could just walk into playoff every year. However, will you still get the same kind of players? Will you still get the same level of NIL? Will you get the same level of money at your disposal, resources, all that? That's a real question to be added. I just think everything's lining up really well here for Auburn to make a splash.
It's all about the TV deals. It's all about, you're just not going to get that money from TV deals in the ACC and the Pac-12.
And Auburn's lining up a war chest for NIL right now, and they've done a really good job doing that. And they just opened a brand new football facility, or they're going to. That head coach is going to walk into a facility that is going to be on par with anybody's you can find in college football. Auburn, again, with the fact that Alabama and Georgia, if you're Auburn football, you have to go above and beyond in NIL because that's what's going to keep you in the game. That's what's going to keep you in the fight. So
they're committed. Auburn is committed to NIL,
and they've done such a good job because it was such a slow start and it was such a and now it's this has got to be the thing that flips over. I mean, when you have Bruce Pearl saying, "Hey, we need to put this basketball facility that we really need on hold because we need to get this NIL thing going."
Yep.
And that shows you the value of it. And I think that also shows you how much Bruce Pearl is a team player in all of this.
Yeah, no, and Butch Thompson's doing it too. And I'm sure whoever Auburn hires will be a part of that messaging as well to be, the next football coach. So
for sure.
Zep Jasper coming up in just a second. Ferg, you were at the unveiling last week for the new football facility. Give us a quick 30-second summary of how incredible it was.
It's all the bells and whistles you need. I think the next facility, it's always this. The next facility in college football is probably going to try to one up it, but for now it is phenomenal. The upgrades they have made, the tangible upgrades they've made in a lot of areas where Auburn, where it comes to the weight room, hydrotherapy, training, it's just such a big step up from what Auburn was in. The practice facilities, the fields it's just a lot of things that they needed. It's going to help Auburn go to the next level. It may not always be the best facility in college football. Like I said, that's going to probably fall apart here in a few months whenever the next one gets built. Yeah. But it's night and day difference from what it was at the current complex, and it's real stuff. You can talk about all the bells and whistles for the recruits and the players to kind of hang out and stuff like that. There's some on field real football stuff that's gonna take Auburn to the next level.
I love that. Ferg, before we jump into our conversation with Zep Jasper, Auburn guard, how can people check out everything going on at the Auburn Observer?
AuburnObserver.com. Sign up. This is a really busy time of the year. It's the best time to sign up. $6 a month or $60 a year gets you a subscription. It's all of our podcasts, all of our newsletters get sent straight to your email inbox. whole lot of football, a whole lot of basketball, and it'll be a very busy weekend and a very busy next week as well.
Yeah, be sure to check out auburnobserver.com. What allowed Zep Jasper and the rest of the Auburn guards to shoot better from deep earlier this week? And also, what does the team think about Chance Westry's debut earlier this week as well? Zep Jasper tells us next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Hey, it's not your fault. As men age, the body naturally loses free testosterone. It happens to every man, and it can make it more difficult to stay in shape and be energetic and active. That's because when you were younger, you were at the peak of your testosterone production, when some have called the winner's hormone or the man's hormone. Would it be nice to get that edge again and that old swagger back in your step? Well, our friends at Nugenics Total T, they are the number one selling testosterone booster at GNC, and they help re-energize your life and help you get back to that powerful, confident, good-looking warrior that you used to be. So you can get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics Total T when you text college to 231-231. Just text college to 231-231. Joining us now, as he does every week throughout the Auburn basketball season, Auburn guard Zep Jasper. Zep, congrats on the win, the dominating win against Winthrop earlier this week.
Oh yeah, it was great to get out there, and get a win. Being 3-0, it just felt good to see some shots go in for me, and also to see the team making some one shots. We've been struggling, with our shooting these past 3 games, even though it's an early start on the season. I know a lot of people look at us and say they're a team that can't shoot, but it's early in the season. The rim's still tight. We got to loosen those rims up. Like I say myself, I came in last year, coming into this year as a 39% 3-point shooter. Coming to the season, it's been a struggle for me, making threes and just making a lot of shots, that I usually make.
Yeah, I think you were 2 of 4 from behind the arc against Winthrop, if I remember correctly, which I think most people would take, right? 50% on 4 shots. I think you take that.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't just you, Zep. I mean, it was all the guards, right? It was Wendell. It was KD as well. That's got to be a relief because, like you said, that's kind of been the biggest thing of like, all right, can Auburn get it going from deep? And you guys found a way to do that.
Oh, yeah. It's been a relief. I talked to Wendell on the bench, and he had told me, man, I haven't made a lot of threes, and I looked at him, and told him, I ain't made no threes, that's my strength, and I haven't made any, and I told him that it's gonna come, this is gonna be the game and come, and it's gonna give us a confidence boost to make our threes, to get us going, so next game I feel like, we'll shoot the ball better, like as I say, teams gonna look at us and say Auburn can't shoot, that's their weakness. In their team. So I think it just gave us a confidence booster, just keep it going and keep fighting and keep climbing.
Bruce Pearl talks about this a ton. I mean, he probably talks about it at some point every year since he's been here, about giving his guards the green light to shoot as they feel, if they feel like it's the shot that they need to take. How freeing is that as a guard to just know that BP is going to trust you guys to make the right play no matter what?
To have a coach that believe in you, it's like it's full of joy. A lot of college coaches don't give their guards the green light. Don't give their big guys the green light. You don't see a lot of big guys who are 5-man to let their big man shoot threes. He let us play. He let us rock out, as young people say. And I just enjoyed playing for BP and his coaching style, and just giving us that green light to let it go, let it fly, let it rip. We don't work hard for nothing. We shoot threes in practice. We work hard on threes, working out, with our coaches. And, he's just one of those type of guys. You work on it, do it in the game. Don't do something you're not going to do in practice in the game.
Chance Westry made his Auburn debut, the highly touted freshman. What has stood out to you most about Chance so far in his young Auburn career?
What stands out to me with Chance is he's a willing passer. He can see the floor. He's big, he's tall, lanky, long.
Huge. Yeah.
So he always can see over those little guards. Auburn, we always been a team that's been known for small guards. Mm-hmm. They play 2-3 guards on the court together sometimes. And Chance, he's one of those guys. He can shoot it. He can drive it, dish it, and he just can make the team look a lot better.
Where do you think we're going to see the most of him? At the 1, the 2, or the 3? We've heard that he can do all of that.
Well, I look at it as it just depends on who's in the game, what playing style we need. But I think he's more of a 1-3 type guy.
Okay.
But he can play 1 through 3 positions. But that's a great question because he's just getting back. He's trying to get his legs under him. It's kind of scary when you're coming back from an injury, like a knee injury. So, I think he got his confidence is still there. But when he get his confidence fully back, I think he'd be ready to rock out, ready to go. And he's going to be a big aspect to our team this year.
On Friday, you guys host Texas Southern in Neville Arena, 7 o'clock action on a Friday night. Doesn't get much better than that, Zep. What do we know about this Texas Southern team?
With Texas Southern, the team, they're playing Houston tonight, and they're just coming off a win against a former teammate, Devin Cambridge from Arizona State.
Oh yeah.
Their team that's in the SWAC conference, guys that that really came from nothing, that can play, but also they know that they got a chip on their shoulders, but wish they was in the SEC, wish they was in this conference. It's a lot of guys that this is their game of their life. Playing against the Auburn, number 13 team ranked in the nation. If I was on a team like that, I would come in playing super hard till I pass out because it's just a lifetime experience coming in Neville Arena, playing, trying to beat the team you want to beat in a lifetime. So I think this team gonna come in hungry trying to beat us, but we gotta keep our mindset as we're Auburn. We gotta play hard. We gotta come out with full intensity. And, no one is going to give us nothing. A lot of teams come out, they get upset because they think teams are going to bow down to them. But I believe this team is not going to bow down to us. We got to come out with authority, enthusiasm, and we got to come out and play super hard.
So it's interesting that you take that point of view because, you didn't start your college career in the SEC. Wendell didn't. Janai didn't. A lot of this roster didn't just start in the SEC. Is that something you guys talk about at all in the locker room when you talk about, don't take these teams for granted. These kids are hungry.
We was mid-major players. We was players that, that thought we should have been in the SEC. We proved to people that we could play in the SEC. Mm-hmm. But from time to time, we talk about it that, we still are mid-major guys. Like we represent our schools that we came from because our school respected us, that we made the decision that would help us out later on in life. And we always talk about these teams are not going to take nothing for granted. These are their primetime games, for their lifetime. These games maybe can help them get in the NCAA tournament if they lose in their conference. So, being a mid-major guy, I never take these teams for granted. We never take them for granted because it's a day that I couldn't have been in Auburn. Yeah. Auburn embraced me. Auburn gave me a chance. So I look at it as like, they're a great team. And I'm going to play hard. No matter what team, what's the name of their jersey, who they got on their team, I'm going to play the way I play.
Right. So as the non-conference schedule gets going, Zep, before SEC play starts, what are some things that you want to continue to work on for yourself as an individual player?
Well, some things I want to work on myself, basically just getting my percentages back up. I started the season off shooting, not a good percentage.
Sure.
Being able to make, contested shots, being able to do a lot of on the dribble type of shots, and basically just getting back to the honey badger, the pest in defense. It's kind of hard because, we won 3 games, but I feel like I want to start those best guys, the guys that score the most points, or the guys that's the head of the snake on their team. And, I just want to, leave out with a statement. This year is a statement year for Auburn. And like I always talk about, we don't have Jabari Walker no more. So a lot of teams don't look at Auburn as the way they look at us last year.
Yeah. Do you think, as far as you wanting to defend the best player on the opposing team, will you still have the ability to do that, playing more of the two this year opposed to the one last year?
Well, it was different last year because, we had 5 guys on the court that just was monsters on the defensive end.
Yeah,
monsters. When you switch off, you set a screen, you going against Jabari. You set a screen, you going against Walker Kessler. So it's like I can't win. They don't got Walker Kessler in the paint no more. That dude was a monster, a tower down there, blocking shots left and right-handed. Jabari going all the way to the 3-point line, guarding you like he a guard. So
right.
I just think being at the 2, sometimes it could be, a little different from last year because, I was bringing the ball up the court, then guarding. Now it's different abilities on how I got to guard people. Because I also got to look at the scoring part, being able to make my shots. It's a little different because our system is different from at the point guard and the shooting guard. So it's a little different, but it ain't nothing that I can't handle. I think I live up to my nickname, the Honey Badger, and I'm going to always live up to it.
Right.
And I just want to show people that I'm one of the best defensive guards in the country. And that's what I want. I hold my head on, and I want respect for that.
Zep Jasper, Auburn guard, joining us. Thank you so much for your time as always, and best of luck this Friday, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Zep Jasper and Justin Ferguson for joining us on this Friday edition of the show. We'll be back Sunday morning to recap Auburn and Western Kentucky. Until then, you can read all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we'll see you then. This has been Locked On Auburn.